Hello and welcome to your NEWSMAX Daily for Tuesday, October 29th, 2024. It's the 44th Tuesday of the year, the 5th and final Tuesday of the month, and World Stroke Day. Established in 2006 to encourage testing, education, and initiatives to improve the impacts that stroke can have on people's lives. Pay attention to the risk factors, especially if you're over 60. Today is also National Cat Day. I have to get that in, right? So the cat people don't get upset with me. The cat ladies. And today marks 1 week until Election Day Tuesday. Finally, you can feel the excitement in the air. People are very anxious and very ready to be done with all of this. So much so that more than 40 million Americans have already cast their ballots during early voting. Former President Donald Trump isn't slowing down, though, after the big Madison Square Garden event on Sunday. He had a rally last night in Atlanta.
He's Hitler. And then they say he's a Nazi. I'm not a Nazi. I'm the opposite of a Nazi. I don't know. Kamala is labeling more than half of the country as the enemy combatants, and she's calling them all fascists and Nazis, okay? But she's a fascist, okay? She's a fascist.
Trump is holding a press conference from his home in Palm Beach today, likely before you even get to listen to this, and then he has another rally tonight in Allentown, Pennsylvania. I'm suggesting to senior campaign advisor Jason Miller that they use Billy Joel's Allentown anthem as the entrance song. Vice President Harris and her running mate, Governor Tim Walz, were in Michigan last night.
Are we ready to vote? Are we ready to win? Yes. And we will win. And we will win.
Well, the biggest guardrail is left, the American public, the ability to go cast your vote, the ability to not just vote against Donald Trump, which I'm just going to say will be pleasurable, but you're voting for something. You're voting for a leader who's been proven.
A proven leader. They don't even hear what they're saying. Donald Trump is the only one of the two who was president already and has proven that he can run the country effectively and well. Let's turn the page back. Today, the vice president has what could be the biggest event of her presidential campaign thus far, an outside rally on the Ellipse near the White House, where she is sure to mention January 6th. It's the same spot where Trump spoke on January 6th. On Monday, all the talk, of course, was about Sunday at Madison Square Garden. Let's begin with Rob Schmitt.
Welcome to Rob Schmitt Tonight. 8 days out, and last night, Donald Trump's fascist regime, which is not even in power, forced New York City to hold a bizarre Nazi rally at Madison Square Garden. You probably didn't realize that Bobby Kennedy and Elon Musk were Nazis. I didn't either. Or the founder of Death Row Records, Nazi. The crowd support was even weirder. Orthodox Jews were all over the place. A very unlikely support group for today's American Nazi Party. Many Jews were even invited to speak last night, which was really surprising. But still, we know it was a fascist Hitlerian campaign event because Hillary Clinton reminded us that this same thing happened at Madison Square Garden 85 years ago. So, of course, any politician holding a rally at MSG is naturally echoing Adolf Hitler. Everyone except John F. Kennedy Jr., or John F. Kennedy, Jimmy Carter, and Bill Clinton. As you see here, they all held rallies there, but they don't count. In case you missed it, we wanted to play for you some of the fascist rhetoric that we heard last night. Take a listen.
America First includes all Americans, regardless of their race, their gender, or their sexual orientation.
And a vote for Donald Trump is a vote for economic prosperity and opportunity for every single one of us as Americans.
I want to protect the Constitution. I want to protect freedom of speech.
It's the freedom to say what's obviously true as a free man and not a slave. And I just want to say thank you, Donald Trump, for that.
How much do you think we can rip out of this wasted $6.5 trillion Harris-Biden budget?
Well, I think we can do at least $2 trillion.
We bleed the same blood. We share the same home. And we salute the same great American flag.
So divisive, so terrifying. Ooh, puts chills down your spine, doesn't it? That in America, that kind of talk. In reality, it was pretty mundane for a fascist rally at Madison Square Garden, which, of course, is why trash media outlets, and this is most of them these days, were so hyper-focused on what comedian Tony Hinchcliffe said about Puerto Rico 3 hours before Donald Trump even entered the building. They're so desperate for rage bait that they're attacking the jokes of a notoriously offensive comedian, a guy that does the Comedy Central roasts, claiming he somehow speaks for the campaign. I doubt anybody in the campaign even knew what he was going to say. And Tony Hinchcliffe says this same kind of material everywhere he goes, and nobody ever cares. It's all fine. He's racist, he's offensive, he's hilarious. He says this stuff on Comedy Central all the time, and nobody cares. But last night they sure did. I took some friends to last night's rally. I guess we're all Nazis, too. We don't look like Nazis, but you never know. MSNBC tried to paint us in that light, of course, using these on-air banners for everybody that attended. Trump's MSG rally comes 85 years after pro-Nazi rally at famed arena. Oh, okay. There's been a lot of basketball and hockey games there, too, but nobody talks about that. And Trump speaking at site of 1939 Nazi rally. You'd think it was the only two things that have happened at MSG this entire time. It was even better to listen to NBC's cable insane asylum. Here you go.
But that jamboree happening right now, you see it there on your screen, in that place is particularly chilling because in 1939, more than 20,000 supporters of a different fascist leader, Adolf Hitler, packed the garden for a so-called pro-America rally. Donald Trump, the man who has threatened to use the military against opponents he calls enemies from within, who has threatened to use the troops to quell what he says are lawless cities, and to use those troops to carry out mass deportations of immigrants, is once again turning Madison Square Garden into a staging ground for extremism.
Isn't it wild to hear what they put on MSNBC at this point? I mean, isn't that insane? Like, that's just normal for them. You want to know why everybody in this country has gone nuts? It's listening to that. They've all gone insane. They've listened to that for years now. And they're everywhere. People that watch that network. A staging ground for radicalism is what they said. They played the Nazi rally video from 85 years ago. And the message, of course, is very clear. This is what they really believe. Unless you agree to let them decimate the country, you are a fascist. Attempt to stop violent mobs from looting and burning down American cities like they did in 2020. If you try to stop that, you are a fascist. Attempt to deport millions of people that they lured into your country to expand their power, you are a fascist. That's it. The desperation to vilify common sense policy is what we're seeing. And that's why Democrats are getting trounced right now. And rather than formulate a more sensible policy and get real with the American people, they just double down on their BS.
Rob Schmitt is the host of Rob Schmitt Tonight, 7 p.m. Eastern. An American Agenda with Katrina Zish and Bob Brooks spoke with Arizona Senate candidate Kari Lake, who said she isn't surprised by the support that Trump is getting in the Democratic stronghold of New York City.
Kari, always great to have you with us on American Agenda. We've been talking about that rally at MSG yesterday. Lots of positivity and very unexpected for such a blue city and a blue state like New York City. What have you been hearing from the inside?
Oh, I had so many people who were there texting me, and they said it's just electric inside. And we were watching a bit of it yesterday. Of course, I'm busy on the campaign trail here in Arizona, but I'm not surprised at all. I've been to New York several times in the past few months, actually, and the city is in disarray. Crime is up. You don't feel safe walking on the streets. There's lines of people there illegally. They're staying in 4-star hotels, and the people are struggling economically in New York. And it's just a real mess. And everywhere we went, whether it was an Uber driver or a taxi driver, they would say, oh, they would figure out who I was, and they would say, oh my gosh, we missed Trump so bad. We got to get Trump in office. We have to turn this around. So I think New York is much more MAGA than anyone would believe. And actually, that was proven yesterday.
I think it was. And Kari, I'm just noticing this final stretch here, this final week, and it really began the last couple days, but was hammered home last night at MSG. The closing message: are you better than you were 4 years ago? And a lot of people think not. And Kamala Harris's closing message is Donald Trump's a bad guy. Republicans are dangerous. The people that go to MSG for a Trump rally are neo-Nazis. Two very stark differences in what we're hearing.
I'm feeling the same thing here in Arizona with my radical opponent. You know, he's called Trump voters the worst people in the world. Can you imagine? And now he wants to represent the people of this state, and he's called more than half of us the worst people in the world. He's called them dumb, all these different names. You know, they don't have a plan, because if they did, in the case of Kamala Harris, that plan would have been rolled out 4 years ago. But instead, what happened 4 years ago is when they got into office 3.5 years ago, they rolled out the opposite. They rolled out the beginning of the destruction of America. They opened up the border. They coddled the cartels, empowered the cartels, left Americans dealing with people pouring across illegally, fentanyl pouring into our communities, killing our young people. They helped destroy the housing market, and the mortgage rates shot up to now about 8%. It's impossible for a young person to get ahead, get a down payment, and buy a house right now. Instead of living the American dream, our young people are wondering if they're going to have to live in a small apartment with 2 or 3 or 4 roommates for the rest of their life. So we have the plans. We are going to put America first. We're going to secure the border, bring back that strong Trump economy, energy independence, a great quality education for our kids so they're ready to tackle the jobs that are out there when they get out of school. And we're going to bring peace and prosperity, not war and poverty. I'm looking forward to President Trump getting in office and joining him in Washington, D.C. in the U.S. Senate and making sure that we accomplish all of those things and more for the good people of this country.
Republican Arizona Senate candidate Kari Lake on American Agenda. That's afternoons at 2 Eastern. And I'll give you one more take on the rally from Wake Up America.
Joining us now for Trump's historic night in the Big Apple, former governor of Arkansas, Mike Huckabee. Governor, great to have you on this morning. So I know you watched the rally from your home. What did you notice? What stood out to you? Not only was MSG at capacity inside, outside, we had some of our correspondents on the streets of New York, and we could see nearly 100,000, I should say, lined up in deep blue New York City.
It was absolutely electric. I mean, this was incredible that it happened in New York City. I mean, it's hardly a red state or a red city, let's be sure. And there were several 100,000 people who couldn't even get into the 20,000-seat arena, which was packed as tight as a Billy Joel concert, if not way more. The New York Post had the headline, Madison Square Garden. I thought that was perfect. And it was really an incredible celebration of America. So whatever people want to say, and the critics are saying a lot, but the reality is it was classic Donald Trump, a brilliant strategy to go into the very heart of one of the bluest cities in the world and to say, we're not afraid to be here because you ought to be with us. And of course, the people on the left are going absolutely bonkers over it.
You know, Governor, one of the things I said, and I believe this was not just about doing it at Madison Square Garden, it was also about trying to impact the House races in New York, which is where the majority was made, and maybe a nod to he wants the national popular vote.
Well, Mark, I think you're right. It really was an expression to say that anywhere in America where there are people who have been hurt by the policies of Biden-Harris, who understand their groceries, their gasoline, their housing cost, everything has really hurt them. This was Donald Trump saying, we're here for all of America. We're not just going to be here for Michigan and Pennsylvania and Georgia, Wisconsin and Arizona. We're going to be here for every state in the union, including a state that has been very cruel to him, viciously cruel to him. But he is showing that he doesn't care what the big shots are doing. He's there for the working class people of the country, including those in New York. I had an interesting email from a doctor friend of mine in New York. He tried to go. He said that he was like 300,000 people away from getting in. He finally gave up. He said there was no way to get in. But it was just to me, characteristic of that this is not about a candidate. This really is a movement for Americans to say we really love this country. We love what America represents, the opportunities for all. We're not against immigrants, but we're against law breaking. And I thought that that was a clear message last night that we celebrate America. We celebrate its liberties. We celebrate the extraordinary opportunities. What we don't celebrate is people who think that they own the country and they can dictate to us. And because they have powerful positions in government, they can surveil us. They can spy on us. They can arrest us. They can do horrible things to our jobs. And we're supposed to roll over and take it. And this is the people rolling back over saying, not anymore, we're not.
The huckster, former presidential candidate Governor Mike Huckabee on Wake Up America. And I have to address the elephant in the room that no one else has mentioned. Like it or not, this Puerto Rico controversy stemming from a comedian's joke at the Madison Square Garden rally and the left-wing media has become a thing, with prominent Puerto Ricans like singer Bad Bunny, who was already supporting Vice President Harris, and Jennifer Lopez and one of her 5 or 6 ex-husbands, Mark Anthony, all speaking out about it. And many of them, I would guess, I don't really want to make that assumption, but I would guess that many of them were already voting for Kamala anyway. This is what Republican vice presidential nominee J.D. Vance said in response to a question about the Puerto Rico joke while campaigning yesterday in Wisconsin.
You know what I do when I think a joke is dumb or not funny? I don't laugh.
J.D. Vance also said that he was backstage at the time and didn't really hear the joke, but noted again it was a joke from a comedian and said it's not really newsworthy. You know what else isn't really newsworthy, but everybody talks about them? The polls. And for the most part, the polls, especially in the swing states, are still very close, a point or two, mainly in Trump's favor, but that is all within the margin of error. Bianca De La Garza spoke with 2 of the best pollsters, John Zogbie of Zogbie Strategies and John McLaughlin of McLaughlin and Associates.
You look at CNN, New York Times, SSRS, CNN, Wall Street Journal, CNBC. Here's the 2024 presidential race. It's close. I mean, John Zogbie, neck and neck. What are you reading from these numbers? Because there is obviously a lot of folks who have already made up their minds, and it's going to come down to like this sliver in these states where apparently they're still neck and neck.
Hundreds of millions of dollars spent to convince this sliver of people, first of all, to come out to vote, and if not, at least to come out to vote for my guy, at least the other person is worse. And so to try then to dampen turnout. But neck and neck doesn't really even capture it all. This is a tie. There's no other way to interpret those numbers. Even a 2-point lead is not only well within the margin of error, it's just not a lead at all. And so the early voting, Republicans have heeded the message from Donald Trump, but I think it means that early voting has become part of our political culture already. People want to vote, they want to get it out of the way, and there's an enormous level of enthusiasm, both sides. So that's another indication that we're at parity here.
Well, and it's not just the White House, it's also control of the Senate, which Republicans' prospects are looking very, very good. 538 giving the GOP an 88% chance of winning the majority in the Senate, which would be huge, and obviously huge because Kamala's already talking about getting rid of the filibuster. John McLaughlin, I'll give you each 30 seconds. You'll start, and then John Zogbie.
Well, a lot of those Senate races depend upon Donald Trump winning. And it's, as John Zogbie said, it's close. And it's a neck and neck race, which is going to increase turnout even further. And if Donald Trump wins, he could win like Ronald Reagan won in 1980, where he brought in a majority in the Senate for the first time in decades for the Republicans. So Donald Trump could actually have the coattails that the Republicans need.
John Zogbie, final 30 seconds to you. And do you think Donald Trump has a chance to take New Jersey? That's what McLaughlin seems to think some of the polling is showing.
Oh, I like John McLaughlin, but I got to disagree with him on that. New Jersey, take out your navy blue crayon there, okay?
Pollsters John Zogby and John McLaughlin on Newsmax with Bianca De La Garza. In the home stretch, there are reports of Vice President Harris really trying to distance President Biden from her campaign and from America. Keep in mind, Biden is the one to blame for all of this, right? Back in 2019, when she dropped out of the race, she was basically finished. She was grits. Then he selected her as his running mate. And a few months ago, even with her terrible record as vice president, she was made the Democrats' nominee for president and could actually become president. She would have nobody but President Biden to thank for it, and the American people, of course. More from Rob Finnerty.
How about this? Axios reporting Biden aides and allies privately trash-talked the vice president during the past 3.5 years, and Kamala and her inner circle know about it, and they plan on stripping all of them of their power if she wins in 8 days. And Kamala's campaign apparently doesn't want Joe Biden anywhere near the campaign trail. Axios also reporting today that the Harris team believes that Biden is a political liability at a crucial time in the campaign. Ohio Congressman Jim Jordan is with us. Congressman, what do you make of that? They're already playing the blame game.
Yeah. Well, I don't think she's going to get a chance to fire those folks because I don't think she's going to win. I mean, every data point is now moving in President Trump's favor. I mean, you can look at the early vote in the key swing states and across the country. You can look at polls nationally, polls in the swing states, and just the energy and enthusiasm you feel from Trump supporters, whether it's at the rally like we saw at Madison Square Garden or any of the rallies he does. I've been all over in several states, and you can just feel the energy for President Trump. So she might want to fire folks when she's president, but she's not going to get to because she ain't going to be president.
She might not have that chance. I'm with you. Just yes or no, do Republicans hold the House?
I think so, yeah. I really do.
Does Mike
We got
Johnson,
good candidates out there. I think we win.
Okay. Does Mike Johnson, the House Speaker, does he deserve another 2 years as Speaker?
Oh, sure. We're going to. I think we're going to win everything. I think we're going to win the Senate. I think we're going to win the White House. I think, President Trump's going to be back in the White House. J.D. Vance, you just talked about, is going to be our vice president. I think we're going to maintain the House. Again, all the metrics, everything is moving in our direction, and you can feel the intensity and the energy on our side. So I think I think we win everything.
And could you see yourself pursuing the speakership?
No, I want to be chairman of the Judiciary Committee. We got to continue to protect your First Amendment free speech rights, your Second Amendment rights, Fourth Amendment privacy rights, get rid of some of the regulations so our economy can flourish, help President Trump with the tax cuts, with the border security, and with common sense energy policy. So that's what I want to focus on when we're in the majority chair in the Judiciary Committee. And think about this, Rob. Did you ever think you would see Donald Trump, Elon Musk, RFK Jr., and Tulsi Gabbard on the same team? They're on the same team because the left is going after your free speech rights, Americans' free speech rights. They're going after the First Amendment. And this coalition is coming together, this new coalition, to say we're going to protect the Constitution, we're going to protect Americans' liberties. That's what I want to focus on as chair of the Judiciary Committee if we win everything like I think we're going to.
Tulsi Gabbard, the Republican. It feels weird to say that, but that's where we are. Just about 20 seconds, Congressman. Do the investigations into Joe and Hunter and the Biden family stop on January 20th? And does he just sort of fade off into the sunset, or does that continue?
Well, look, we're not like the Democrats. We don't go after our political enemies. We just want the facts out there. So we still want to look at this special counsel, David Weiss, and how he handled that investigation. So that's something that will continue because there were all kinds of strange things done there, not to mention the retaliation against the whistleblowers who came forward and gave us so much information. So certainly that's something we'll look at. Anything else, that'd be up to the next administration and specifically the next attorney general.
Ohio Congressman Jim Jordan, chair of the House Judiciary Committee, on Finnerty with Rob Finnerty. That's weeknights at 8 o'clock Eastern. Rob also had a fantastic segment on Second Gentleman Doug Emhoff, and he spoke with the Daily Caller reporter who's been investigating the accusations from Doug's ex-girlfriend of physical violence. On tomorrow's Newsmax Daily, I'm going to play a big part of that interview. It's a long interview, but I'm going to play a big part of it. It's an excellent, in-depth story that most of the media, of course, is not covering. And Donald Trump's interview with Joe Rogan has been viewed now more than 36 million times. Rogan has gained more than 400,000 new YouTube subscribers since Friday's release of the interview. That's according to Newsweek. Rogan is hoping to get an interview with Vice President Harris. He says that her team wanted him to travel to her, which he is not going to do. He wants to do it in his Joe Rogan studio in Austin. He also said that they wanted to limit the interview to an hour. President Trump's was almost 3 hours. He doesn't want to put a time limit on it either, but says he is still hoping, and the Harris team says they're still hoping to work out a time for her to sit down with Rogan. On Wall Street, stocks opened in the red this morning as McDonald's reported an uptick in store sales, but warned about a possible fallout from the E. coli situation there. Alphabet, also known as Google, and AMD are going to report earnings later today. Two huge earnings reports. Microsoft and Apple will report earnings tomorrow. Two other huge market-moving earnings reports. The LA Dodgers are now one game away from winning the World Series. Game 4 is tonight at Yankee Stadium in New York, a must-win for the Yankees, or the Dodgers will take the World Series in Yankee Stadium. Be sure to keep up with all of the news all day and night on Newsmax, newsmax.com, and be sure you're streaming on Newsmax Plus to get the most complete lineup of all your favorite shows, hosts, and guests, newsmaxplus.com. Get all the information and get signed up right there. I'm Tony Marino. Thank you, as always, for listening to the Newsmax Daily. Please continue to share it with your friends and family, and enjoy the rest of your Tuesday. World Stroke Day. Pay attention to your health and keep on fighting the good fight.
News breaks every minute, every day. You need the app, the Newsmax app. Find it free on your smartphone store. Then watch us anytime, anywhere.
Information. Truth is freedom. Is Newsmax. It's real news for real